I'm here with Nathan Creitz, and he's the pastor of Calvary Baptist Church in Bayshore. And I'm excited to talk a little bit about pastoring in the time of coronavirus with
Oh,
you.
yeah.
And in particular, I just noticed that you saw that the church is not closed, but it is, what is the word that you used?
Deployed.
All right, tell me about that.
Yeah, so I actually put this on there. I think it's the only time something I've put on social media ever went viral. It's already been shared like 200 and something times. I just said our church is not closed. Our church is deployed. And I think the idea there is just that, yeah, we're kind of in a strange new time where in the providence of God, things are shut down. Things are, we're staying at home. We can't meet together or assemble together in our buildings, but we're still the church on mission. We still have, a task for us to do. And the way I look at it is we as pastors, hopefully everything we've been preparing our people to do and to be, that they're out there going and doing it. So, yeah, so the church isn't closed, even though we had to shut our buildings down. The church is deployed. So that's kind of where I was going with that.
I get an advertisement on my Facebook feed for a T-shirt that says, "The church has left the building."
Yeah.
That has become very appropriate.
Yeah, and if I could say something about that too, is like, okay, yeah, the church has left the building, because that helps us to understand that the church isn't the building, because that's always usually that seems to be the default position, is like, I'm going to church. And so I think we're getting that message now, but I think the other thing that we have to be careful of is that, but the church is the people, but it's gathered people.
That's right. Yeah.
And so we can't go too far in saying, the church is, because we're in this time where we're not gathering. It's just a strange thing where it kind of is reminiscent of the Israelites, where they're out in exile. They can't meet at the temple. They can't make their sacrifices. They can't do their, all the practices of their worship. It's really reminiscent more of that we, we're kind of unable at this time to meet. We're providentially hindered, as we talked about a lot.
Yeah.
We're providentially hindered from meeting, but we still have, our marching orders, if you will, from on high. So,
yeah. What are a few things that you're hoping that the members of your church grow in and are maybe being stimulated in this area or provoked to grow by the Holy Spirit in this area because of the coronavirus? What weaknesses are being revealed, and what passions for things that are less than the Lord are being uncovered? What are some things you hope that your church is learning in the midst of this craziness?
Yeah, that's a good question. And what I'm trying to communicate through all these different channels, whether it's online or a phone call or whatever else, is I think the first attitude that we should have in all of this is humility. A couple of weeks ago, we were making plans for this week. We were making plans for Easter. We were making plans for conferences or travel or vacations. And overnight, just all of a sudden we get these instructions from, the experts and our government officials saying, no, you need to stay at home, and this is for the good of everybody around you. And so I think humility is important, as an attitude. I think also, another thing that I hope people are learning is that, we're not taking these measures out of fear. We're taking these measures out of love.
Yeah.
And perfect love casts out fear. That we're doing this not because we're scared of dying. We're not even, we're not scared of getting sick. But we're doing this out of love for our neighbors who are at a higher risk and are very vulnerable to this. And so, humility, and then I would say, that's the attitude, and then the proper approach to all of this is that we should, be thinking of this in terms of loving our neighbor, and then, I think I think this really smashes a lot of our idols. We can't watch that sports tournament today.
Yeah.
And not that everybody's made sports an idol, or entertainment, or going out to the movies, or all those things. Not that everybody has made all of those things idols in their lives, but we certainly can't do those things. And so it kind of reminds us of what's most important. We're home with our family for the most part, and we're able to take this time to invest in our wives, in our children. I've called people of my extended family more frequently over the last week or so than I really have in a long time, because I was just so busy. And I think busyness is an idol, especially for you and me, as pastors. But I think for really everybody, we're going to work, and so I think if we can really redeem this time, that we look at this with fresh eyes, that okay, God is actually in all of this. God is wanting to challenge us and give us a new perspective on even how we go about our day. So then that would be another lesson. I could maybe think of a few more, but can I throw this back at you? What are some other things? Because I need to learn as well. So what are some
I
things?
don't know the answers, but I as you were talking, I was thinking that the word amuse is the opposite of muse. It's the lack of musing. Muse means to think. Amuse means not to think.
That's
and we've become, I think, a culture who is addicted to distraction from reality. That people will even admit that the reason that they watch television or movies is to divert their attention from reality and to ignore real life. And I think one of the things that is being revealed by the systematic stripping away of sports and entertainment, and especially for those people who naturally are inclined towards extroverted forms of entertainment, being with other people while they're amused. I think it's kind of stripped away that layer to where people actually need to now be alone with their thoughts, and people are uncomfortable with that. And I think that this is a good opportunity for genuine conviction for those who are believers to say, am I using my time wisely in my normal life? I mean, has this revealed to me that I have made an idol out of sports? If this virus has done nothing else, it has definitely revealed to us the chronic addiction that we have to sports in our country. And
that's true.
I do think there's an opportunity to be very introspective and very thoughtful about the way that we normally spend time and the reasons that we do engage with entertainment more than we should. And that's been what I've been learning personally. My wife and I have had this conversation over the last few days, because I have a tendency towards desiring distraction, even from good things like podcasts. I will listen to every sermon I can get my hands on, and they're great things. There's nothing wrong with them. But why am I more comfortable with that than sitting with my Bible open and just taking in the Word on my own? And that's an important thing, I think, for Christians to really examine. So that's a very small sliver of what I think we can learn, but that's something.
Well, I think that's one thing, is being distracted, and that's what I'm talking about as well with the idols in our life. But I think there's another danger. In fact, I shared this on Sunday, which it was over. My sermon was, as many people were doing this Sunday, was we became televangelists. As I saw one meme, said that.
We all became
just like that. We became televangelists. But one of the things I shared with my church family was to watch out for Satan, watch out for the devil. He's roaming about like a roaring lion, seeking those he can devour. And one of the things in this time, some people are still able to find their distractions. I mean, there's still Disney Plus and Netflix and Hulu and YouTube and everything else. And I admit I'm still there's probably more that I could do to get more focused and spending time with the Lord. But I think there's also some people who are isolated. They're prone to anxiety, depression. I even addressed on Sunday, I even said, there may be people who are watching this video who are suicidal at this time. And certainly there are elderly who were already homebound and now they're not getting visits and spending that time. So I think in this moment, it would be very easy for Satan to come in and really devour people and just, find ways to cause us to be even more anxious and just fuel our fears. And that's one of those quotes that we've all heard is, if you feed your faith, then your fears die. If you feed your fears, your faith dies. And so I think that's another encouragement that I want to share, that I've been trying to share with my church family is, look, if you're alone, if you're isolated, if you need someone to talk, if you need counseling, if you need to, whatever you need, we're here on standby, because we don't want Satan to come in and steal your joy from you in this moment. So there's a lot of lessons to learn in the midst of this if we're paying attention.
What is one particular passage or verse that's been either for yourself or for your congregation very significant in the last few weeks with all this?
Well, I mean, the reason why I preached on that on Sunday was because I have been going over that in 1 Peter 5, verse 6 and following. And I even started just now, I talked about humility. So that was really the first point of my message. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that he may exalt you at the proper time, casting all your cares on him because he cares about you. And I think humility is important in this moment because, of course, our plans changed in an instant. I mean, we can't say we're going to go do, as it says in James 4, we're going to go do this and we're going to go do that and we're going to go to this city and we're going to spend this time. But instead, we should say, if the Lord wills. Right. And so I think there's some humility that we all need to have. And so this passage has really stood out to me because when I think about the mighty hand of God and think about how everything is under his mighty hand, viruses, nations, galaxies, and everything. And one of the points that I arrived at for this, as I was reflecting on 1 Peter 5, verse 6, humbling yourselves under the mighty hand of God, is that viruses can infect humans, viruses can infect animals, but really the biggest thing that viruses do is they infect bacteria. And of course, there's good and bad bacteria, but if bacteria were left unchecked, it would take over every living thing. There would be nothing on this earth except bacteria. Yeah. And life as we know it would end. And so even a virus is under the mighty hand of God. And of course, we're dealing with just this one, but there are hundreds of millions and even trillions of viruses that are right now doing everything that God has intended for them to do to keep those bacteria in check so that we can even live. I just took a breath because viruses are attacking bacteria and have been, since time began, So I think, having that humility and also recognizing that the God who made these viruses, the God who made the galaxies, the God who made, everything in creation is telling me to cast my cares on him. I mean, that blows my mind. And of course it goes on, and that's why I was talking about the devil. Be sober-minded, be alert. Your adversary, the devil, is prowling around like a roaring lion, looking for anyone he can devour. Resist him, firm in the faith, knowing that the same kind of sufferings are being experienced by your fellow believers throughout the world, which we know the context of that is primarily about persecutions, right? But it can also apply to pandemics. I mean, any struggles that we're facing we need to resist the devil in that, because the devil wants to twist it and use it for his purposes.
Yeah.
So that's kind of I've been meditating on that and sharing that as much as I can, because this is a time for us to humble ourselves, and it's a time for the nations of the world to humble themselves.
It will definitely, when you see the sovereignty of God in all of these things, and how he is completely in control and in charge, and that everything is within the realm of not only his understanding, and not only he doesn't only have the ability to correct it, but he's actually the one who implemented and planned and put into motion these things that are taking place. And so, yeah, you're right. When we understand the sovereignty of God, not only as this kind of impersonal force or being, but as one who is good and who desires for us, when we are experiencing the tribulation that comes from his plan, to lean into him and to call out to him, and to, as you said, cast our cares upon him because he cares for us. Right. You're right. I think that is the most substantial way that we can be humbled. And I would say that the most clear way for us to discern whether or not we are humble is whether or not we do pray. Proud people do not pray. And
that's true.
A humble person will see their need for the Lord. And even if they have everything that they need, their refrigerator is full, and their house is healthy, and there's no coronavirus nearby, and everything has been wiped down with antibacterial soap, and the bank account is just absolutely doing well, and all their investments are great, that person can still be very humbled before the Lord, and just lay down everything and say, this is yours, it's not mine. Call out to the Lord. And that's one of the ways, I think, for those who are watching this video, to maybe test your hearts to see, am I arrogant in my heart by thinking I can fix all this, or thinking that, or do I really recognize that God is in charge here?
Yeah, you can be humble, or you can be humbled.
That's right.
Right. So, I mean, allow yourself to be humble in this time, because really we need to be setting that example as Christians. And of course we can say, like Psalm 2, it is, I think each of us as individuals should be humble right now. But I think it's also important to point out that I think what God is doing in the midst of this global catastrophe is he's humbling the leaders of the world. He's humbling the powers around us. It says in Psalm 2 verse 10, "So now, kings, be wise. Receive instruction, you judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with reverential awe and rejoice with trembling. Pay homage to the Son, or he will be angry and you will perish in your rebellion. For his anger may ignite at any moment. All who take refuge in him are happy." And, if this is not a time for, President Trump and Governor Cuomo, for those of us here in New York, and for whoever governors and whoever mayors and whoever local elected officials and representatives, for us to pay homage to the Son and to serve the Lord with reverential awe. Of course, we need to do that as Christians, but I'm praying that God will use this to bring people to their knees in humility and in homage to the Son of God. So may his will be done.
Amen.